Hello, this is the Harboring Light. I'm Mary. I give a conservative take about the world around me. So this episode is Friday, Fun Friday. And so I'm focusing on Canada. And I appreciate the listeners out there from Canada that started out with me on Anchor. And then also the new listeners, and I'll get to you, all of you, eventually. But I'm working through the process of addressing the senior listeners out there that were there with me. And I appreciate all you listeners out there, and I greatly appreciate all the new listeners out there. I appreciate you all. And Fridays are my way of giving thanks to that. So on this particular episode, I'm going to cover things you didn't know or might know, but this is what I'm going towards, working out the process of doing that when I'm addressing food from all the listeners out there, all the different countries and cities and regions and cities in the States. So things that you didn't know or you might know about food from Canada, that comes from Canada, that is. All right, so let's dive into this. Okay, so before I get into the episode, I want to give some food for thought here. I think it's a good thing to break everything down and see the other aspects of what cuisine means and versus the mainstream thought process of what you would think about typically from certain regions or certain countries. And so my other reasons behind showcasing everything, starting out with the cuisine of all the different regions of the people that listen to me, but also as another point to get into the reality of the situation of breaking down. Of course, that's a big feat to accomplish and to conquer, but to also break down the aspects of seeing that seeing the importance of looking beyond what's not typical of what's, and further analysis into that of a country or a state or a city or things like that. And to also from that get the conversation going as to what sparked these things to happen. So for instance, typically you wouldn't expect on surface, which it'd be a, can be a polarizing aspect, but this is a reality of the situation. So sometimes that happens, but that I'm just being honest, you wouldn't typically expect somebody, black or maybe Hispanic or Asian or something to be into heavy metal. But when you get to know them, when you break everything down and you find out that they are and then that's something that you can share in common with them, that you didn't think, hey, that's unusual. I didn't think that you would, because of the way that you look, you wouldn't like that. And so this is another realm for me to get into with the aspects of food that you wouldn't expect from certain regions, certain states, certain countries. So to get that conversation going, to think about not to see things as being typical and to go beyond everything. And then also, I like to know what you all think about the aspects of food that you wouldn't expect for certain countries or for certain states. So email me, find me on Substack, follow me on X, and of course, YouTube. All right, so let's dig in. All right, so here we go. Let me get into the aspects of everything So this article is 10 foods made in Canada. And so it is from chopsticksandforks.com. And so here we go with number 1, poutine. What do you get when you put a bunch of French fries in? Now, I really enjoy the way that everything is written in this article. And it gives, a sense of humor, too, with it. And that's nice to have with that interlace when you're talking about things. And so I'm now this person is speaking from hand because they're Canadian, talking first person, but I'm reading it as how they wrote everything. I think it's clever how they write. So what do you get when you put a bunch of French fries with cheese curds on top, then drown it with gravy? Well, that is what Canadians call poutine. The origins are often debated, but where it was born is not. Poutine is Canadian and originated in the province of Quebec. Since its inception back in the 1950s, the creative hands have put their own mark on this Canadian dish. If you're in Toronto, you'll find poutine shops all over the city and many restaurants who carry their own unique take. From lobsters to foie gras, there are many versions. It would be a challenge to choose one. If you have never had it, just go simply with just cheese curds and gravy on a nicely fried fries. So in Toronto, there are no shortage of places to find your poutine fix, but the condition that this is the author that the person is saying place on the dish from Quebec is only recommended places that honors the traditional dish. So, for instance, it goes on to say Nami poutine, another hot destination for all things fried, but it is the duck confit that needs to be sought after. So duck. So I remember eating this as a kid, and it was pretty good. But, when it's done, when it's not overcooked, it can get really dry. So, yeah, that's good to know about that duck. And then also, it brings up going back to the origins of how things change with the aspect of Christmas meals, and that's surfacing in the back of my head about duck and plum sauce particularly. So another hot destination of all things fried, but it's the duck confit that needs to be sought after. If you do not know, when you haven't had fries deep fried in duck fat before, there is a limited supply of delicious goodness, and you don't have to pay premium for the pleasure. But once you have it, you will discover why this is by far the best way to get your fries and eat it too. Topped with cheese and gravy, there are a few places in Toronto that compare to the goodness of poutine. So, pea meal bacon. Now, Canadians love their bacon, but what the world has come to know is Canadian bacon as something that every visitor should try once. So pea meal bacon is the back bacon from the pork loin. The reason why this is called pea meal is this. It is that back boneless pork loin that could be rolled in dry ground yellow peas after it has been dried. This was done for preservation purposes. The most popular way of eating pea meal bacon is having it with your breakfast, accompanied by eggs and hash browns. The best way to have this is with a bun and eat it with a sandwich and some good mustard. By the way, Canadian supplies over 75% of the global supply of mustard. So this writer is recommending St. Lawrence Market. This bakery on St. Lawrence Market, that is. So it says Carousel Bakery. This is an iconic establishment that has been at St. Lawrence Market for over 30 years and been serving up their world-famous pea meal bacon sandwich to locals and visitors alike. The sandwich here has been a must even for celebrity chefs like Bobby Flay and Emeril Lagasse. Wow, heavy hitters there. They do serve other things, but if you go only on one trip, this is the place to go. So it's quite interesting. I didn't know that Hawaiian pizza was a Canadian thing, and I was talking about this subject to my husband, and he was saying, "Yeah, I know, I knew that was about that Hawaiian pizza." And it was funny. I'm saying it in a funny way, but it was funny because it's something that he knew and I didn't, and it's one of those things that gets the mind going like, okay, that's interesting to know. But it was very sweet what he was saying about it and everything. How he was saying it. So most would be confused to learn that the pizza with ham and pineapple was born in Canada. The now famous Hawaiian pizza was born in the most unlikely of places. A restaurant owner in a small town in Ontario called Chapman named up with the combo back in the 60s. So this is not linked to the Polynesian influence of the Aloha state of Hawaii. Unfortunately, it's not. It's quite interesting. So here we go with pizza sushi, aka sushi pizza. There's some debate as to where this take on sushi came, but you can definitely say that it's a Canadian creation, and with the beloved and the aspect of appreciation of the Japanese delicacy. So essentially, it is a hamburger bun-sized patty of rice that is then deep fried where the outside is crispy. You can have various toppings, but usually you will find it with either raw salmon or tuna or both. Another topping is popular is the barbecued eel. The pizza sushi will often come with a spicy mayo, but you can find various toppings depending on where you go. It's a delicious way for people to have sushi, and this Canadian creation has become a favorite in Toronto and throughout the country. So, this is a recommendation, the Sushi Inn, located in the heart of Yorkville. So, the writer goes on to say, back in 2000, I was visiting a friend, and they ordered takeout and introduced me to this strange creation. And from then on, this place is a treat that I often crave, so they give a lot of props for being introduced to this. And so this is also I bring this up, this is also a good aspect to understand about the benefits of friends. And so friends can, if you allow it to happen, if you want those kind of friends, they can introduce you to things and explain things to you that you didn't think about or didn't know, and have you rethink things and just have more of a broader view about things instead of being so separate. And so I can greatly relate to this. So growing up, but in the 3rd or 4th grade, I started learning how to speak Spanish. And so I had friends that would teach me. Of course, we kids being kids, we're saying, you know, all colored humor, and just teaching me cuss words and things like that. But the reasons behind, of course, being kids and being funny and being, trying to be adult and grown up and being, saying, oh, look at what we can get away with. But it really what it was a thing to also teach and understand about what other people are saying and understand the language. And then, also looking out for me, and then, about if somebody's talking about me, or so I can understand. And that also helped me to learn more and more and more as I got older about Spanish. And it's a really good thing if you want it to happen, because what the point I'm getting towards, when you open yourself up to that at the nucleus, we're all bound to a common bond, instead of being polarized and separate. And that's a good life lesson to have. So, okay, and it's a good benefit to understand about friendship. So, split pea soup. Born in Quebec, the same place as poutine, this famous soup has its roots in Canada. The anchor to this soup is the ham bone with a base that consists of dry split peas. Most Canadians probably don't know that this wonderful and comforting soup comes from their homeland. This could potentially be the greatest export Canada has given to the world. There really isn't a better way to warm up in the cold Canadian winter than a bowl of hot, thick pea soup. So butter tarts. And those who are in the know, I like to bake. And those who know about this, this sounds very interesting. I would like to know what you think about the butter tarts, and those who have baked this, what are your thoughts about that? So, feel free, email me, Substack, X, and of course, YouTube. Excuse me there. If there is something definitely sweet that comes from Canada, you don't have to look much further than this butter tart. This delightful dessert is small and wonderfully delicious. There's nothing there that would be anything less than indulgent. A pastry shell that is filled with sugary goodness. And don't be surprised to see this delectable treat with raisins or nuts. So it's sticky, it's sweet, and all good. And that's a nice description too. Nami bars. So this is a no-bake dessert bar, and it's a staple of many office parties or catered events. This truly Canadian treat comes from the town of Namo, British Columbia, and typically made with a mixture of graham cracker crumbs, vanilla custard, chocolate, coconut, and walnuts. You may find other versions that have peanut butter and even with chocolate mint. Any way you have it, it is a very unique treat and all Canadian. And also, this is an interesting thing too with ketchup chips. So I was also discussing this with my husband, and he let me know about, I didn't even know this too, about that this was a thing with pickled potato chips. And I was discussing, you think ketchup chips would taste good as far as the acidity. And he was talking about how that it probably would, because of the way that he was describing the pickled chips. It sounded like it's a up tier of salt and vinegar chips. So this was quite interesting. So if there is a snack that is distinctively Canadian, you don't have to look much further than your local convenience store and grab yourself a bag of ketchup chips. So the author goes on to say, I heard it said that the most missed snack the Canadians wish they had when they moved to another country is this salty and savory potato chip. And this is a good segue to Kraft Dinner. So, did y'all know about this? Kraft, the monster global company, has a Canadian staple, Kraft Dinner. Some would even say that it is a quasi-national dish. To Americans, it is just mac and cheese and short for macaroni and cheese. Canadians eat more of this than anywhere in the world, and it may very well be the most purchased item brought from supermarkets in Canada. And the price tag is cheap at 99 cents. And what can you go wrong with that? And also, this is very clever to say. So this joke here, it says Kraft Dinner, but no self-respecting Canadian would do that. So there are microwavable versions. So they go on to say with Kraft Dinner, no respecting Canadian would do that if they had the time to make it on a stovetop. So, lastly, maple syrup. Accounting for more than 75% of the world's supply, Canada is a powerhouse in the delicious, complex to your pancakes or waffles. Maple syrup can be found in all sorts of things in Canada, from maple bacon, maple donuts, maple latte. And that's quite interesting because it reminds me of the equivalent pumpkin spice latte, pumpkin spice chips, running joke of that, and then pumpkin spiced scented candles. The list goes on. Epic list there. This is probably one of the most popular items to give as gifts when Canadians travel outside of Canada, and one of the most popular among tourists who visit and take it back home. All right, this is reaching the end of the Harboring Light, but I also want to say these things. So, again, this is a good catalyst to get the conversation going about the how we, in its core, food is a good way of connecting with people, and also it's unfortunate that we are living in an ever-present time that it seems like it's normal to have that mentality that we are in a vacuum. And what I mean by this is that, being antisocial is more acceptable and versus connecting with people on the internet or through technology instead of, going out and having conversations. And a good way to have a nice conversation, pleasant conversation, connect with people even further is through restaurants and food and, sharing those shared interests. And you form bonds from that and friends and relationships out of that. And so, also another thing to point out too, now this is not always the case, but this is something to address. So when you get into the ideology of polarizing, of saying, for instance, unfortunately with health food, unfortunately with the vegan lifestyle, a lot of times it's the whole pious attitude that this is the way to live. Anybody who thinks differently is going against the grain of the humanity of protecting Mother Earth and protecting your body and all of these things. Why does it have to be simply that? Why can't you just accept that, not everybody has your views, and that when you break everything down, the human body is designed for me. That's how we evolved. That's what we are. You can't deny that. That's what our body consists and needs, the nourishment to be healthy. And so, when you mix all that in with food, that's another thing. Another thing that you polarize something that's, an enjoyable thing to think about, and that's nourishment for us to live our lives and do the things that we need to do in our life, and take care of our families, and work, and all these things. Why polarize that? And so I would like to know what all you guys think out there. Please reach out to me, either email, Substack, and X, but of course YouTube. And I greatly emphasize YouTube because YouTube is a mega platform, and with all of its problems, the good thing about it is that what is good is it's a great way to get the conversation going, to talk about things, and to globally reach a lot of people. So don't be shy, y'all, that listen to me on YouTube. Get in those comments, because, I greatly appreciate what you all think, and I'll respond to you. And so let me know what you think. It helps the conversation going about food and about other things. So feel free to fill up those comments, and also like and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. All right, so this reaches the end of the Harboring Light. Tune in, turn up, and absolutely take care out there. Bye-bye now.